Today, we're going to be exploring the cost of hiring an associate attorney in 2023. The last couple of years have been a bit of a roller coaster when it comes to hiring and attorney salaries. And there's been some new data released on associate salaries that I think will be pretty interesting for any of you that may be considering adding the first attorney to your firm if you're a solo, or if you're a small firm, medium-sized firm, if you're looking to grow some more, you're definitely going to want to see this data on salary trends. So without further ado, I'm Kristin Tyler, one of the co-founders at LAWCLERK. Recently lost my voice, so I apologize. I sound a little bit froggy, but we're going to get through this and have a good time today. All right, away we go. So, oh goodness. One second here. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, let's first set the stage and talk a little bit about the importance of hiring. If at one point you were a solo, maybe you're still a solo attorney, it's totally natural that when you start your firm, you kind of do all the things. You're answering the phone, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the client intake, you're going to court, you're writing all the briefs, et cetera, et cetera. But as time goes on, if you really are trying to grow your firm and grow your revenues, you're going to have to stop doing everything and start delegating and start growing your team. And there's some different ways to do that. So, you have to be realistic with yourself. If you're working more hours than you'd like, if you're pulling all-nighters or working all weekend, those are all pretty good signs that it's probably time for you to hire some more help for your team so that you don't hit burnout. Okay, so let's talk about hiring. When we're talking about hiring, really, there's two approaches these days. We're going to go through the traditional law firm hiring model, all right? And then we're also going to look at the more modern approach. So first off, let's go through the more traditional model that a lot of people are already familiar with. This is the model of a law firm hires a full-time, in-office associate attorney, pay them a salary, give them a whole bunch of benefits, and that's been fantastic. That's the way our legal industry has worked for decades. And it's made a lot of lawyers very successful. So, there's nothing wrong with this model other than it can be a little time consuming, can come with a pretty big overhead expense as well, which is why we're going to look at the more modern approach too. But first, let's go through the latest trends about what it costs to hire an associate using this traditional approach. Okay, first off, we know that traditional hiring can be incredibly slow. Lateral hires, meaning you're hiring, you want to hire a third-year attorney, so you're looking to hire a third-year attorney from another firm in town, bring them over. That can take months. The data has shown us that's typically about a 3 to 12-month process to find the right person. And sometimes you really need help faster than that. If you're looking to hire a new attorney, an entry-level associate, that only happens a couple of times a year, typically after the bar exams. And so that can be limiting as well. Another big downfall, is that traditional hiring is really expensive. So just how expensive? You don't have to, be a major legal trends analyst to see the headlines the past few years about the hiring wars and how associates' salaries have skyrocketed. And thankfully now we have some great data to back some of those headlines up and show us really what was going on. So when, one of the best sources for data on associate attorney salaries is NALP. It's the National Association for Law Placement. If you've not heard of them before, go Google this, look it up. They have a ton of data, both for entry-level associates, laterals, partners, etc. So this is one really great, reliable data source. And they just released their 2023 report like a week ago exactly. So that's really exciting. So the report definitely verified what we've all been hearing, that the last 2 years saw a really red hot legal hiring market with a lot of crazy things happening with associate attorneys. So across the board, meaning all firm size, from small firms, mid-size, big law, first-year associate salaries increased in all of those categories every year since 2021. Salaries went up the most, believe it or not in big law, which gets all the headlines, but in firms of 100 or fewer lawyers. So that's right, solos and small firms, just like you and me, have seen the biggest rises over the last 2 years. in those firms under 100 lawyers now found that the median first-year salary grew from $120,000 a year in 2021 to $155,000 this year. So that's an increase of 29%, almost 30% in 2 years. And I know that we've been battling inflation, but this is a really significant jump that can be a barrier to entry for a lot of people looking to hire another attorney for their firm. And so keep in mind, this is the median, not the average. If you don't remember the difference, go Google it. I've been doing way too much 5th grade math lately to try to explain the difference. So the report also found that these pay raises cascaded throughout the market at an accelerated pace. So it's very common for us to hear about salary increases in big law. And before, they've never trickled down into the middle market, into smaller firms as fastly as they have the last 2 years. It was really at an accelerated pace. And that's what's made all of us feel the impact of these hiring wars that started at big law and came down to CSO. Normally, it takes about 2 years for those types of raises to make a rise, but it was much faster this year. So maybe you're not looking to hire a first-year associate at this firm, but you're looking to bring over a second, a third, a fifth. These are the average salaries by year. So you go by associate year and then by size of your firm. So if you're a firm of 100 or fewer, you're looking to bring on a third-year associate. This report says that they found the median salary to be $180,000 a year. Okay. So this chart's available on that NELP survey. I've referenced it here. Definitely encourage you to go check it out if you're looking to hire and you want to dig into this data some more. Now, of course, there are geographic differences. When I hear about surveys like this, I always think, okay, they're surveying all the law firms in New York City. What does that matter to me as an attorney in Las Vegas, Nevada? And the report did account for some geographic differences. So the survey found that across 26 different cities, so not just New York, not just LA, there really was a pretty wide range within the median first-year salaries. They found a range of 145,000 to 215 across those 26 different cities. But you'll remember the mean for a first year was 155 across all the cities. So, but it did range from 145 to 215. 11 of those cities now have a median starting salary of 215. Can you imagine that? I mean, when I came out as a new law grad to make $215,000, that's a lot of money. Those cities include these. So if you're in one of them, take note that you're at one of the higher markets. Now, of course, this data is all, it's a reference point for you. If you're in a small town in Nebraska, if you're in a mid-sized town in Tennessee, take this with a grain of salt, and you're going to need to do a little more work on your own to find some data on salaries in your region. But this is a really good reference point. And, certainly if a first-year associate comes to you in a small town in Kansas and says, I want $215,000 because that's the median starting salary for a first year, you're going to say, not here. And we know that. So overall, we saw this huge rise the past 2 years, increasing starting salaries by 29%. So what's happening this year? So far in 2023, what we're hearing, what the data has been showing is that the roller coaster continues and salaries are kind of course correcting themselves. We've seen kind of a 180. So if you've been paying attention to some of the news, those same big law firms that were sparking all of these salary wars in 2021 especially, are now having layoffs because work has slowed down and they're looking for ways to save money. So a lot of those law firms that race to hire lawyers and would throw huge starting salaries at them to attract talent and keep talent, they are now having to shift course amid the rising interest rates, continued high inflation, and fears of a recession that we're all facing. So it seems like we're not continuing on a straight upward line for starting salaries. It does seem like they are course correcting, and who knows if we'll even see a reduction this year. As I kind of mentioned earlier, there's other ways to get this data too. And if you are in a smaller market, I would encourage you to look at, what are lawyers at other firms? What are they paying? Call your friend from law school who is at a different firm that just hired someone, see what they're paying. Your state bar may have some salary data available. I know my state bar does, so definitely check that out. And, it's something that you and most associates are happy to share with you what they're making at their current firm if you're looking to hire a lateral. So those are all some other data points you can gather to figure out what salary to pay. Now, salary, of course, is only one component when you're hiring an associate attorney under that traditional full-time in-office model. The other things you need to consider include things like benefits and overhead, okay? These include all of the things like health insurance, training programs, liability insurance, the payroll taxes you have to pay as the employer, their bar dues, their continuing education classes, of course, office space and equipment. And, that could include both an in-office office with equipment and their home office that might need some equipment. Retirement contributions, depending on what type of plan you have. And of course, subscriptions for legal research tools, case management tools, practice management, et cetera, et cetera. So these things all add up. And we do have a hiring worksheet. I'm going to explain that a little bit later on that can guide you through calculating these expenses. But as a rule of thumb, a good way to estimate what this whole package is going to cost on top of the salary is to use a figure somewhere between 30 to 40% of the salary, the base salary, to account for the cost of their benefits, taxes, insurance, et cetera. Okay, so this is a lot of math here. Let's go talk it through. What's the all-in cost to hire a first-year associate under this traditional model? Well, first off, we're going to start with our salary, which we learned from now the national median for firms of 100 lawyers or fewer is $155. When you add their benefits, I just picked the number of 35% for hitting the mid-range. That's another $54,000. Okay, so all in, you're well over two bills. You're well over $200,000 to hire a first-year associate in a lot of markets. This is why I see a lot of lawyers put off hiring help that they so desperately need, because they're intimidated by this number. They're intimidated by having to make this payroll every 2 weeks in case their case volume has some ebbs and flows. But the good news is that this traditional hiring model is not the only model we have to choose from. We have the luxury of looking at other options and going with a more modern approach to law firm staffing, okay? Chances are in 10, 15, 20 years and beyond, the law firm of the future is going to be staffed a lot differently than maybe the law firms that we all started at when we were new associates. I think the traditional law firm model has some pros, it has a lot of cons, and that's why other people are looking for different options. They're looking to staff their teams with a hybrid of traditional in-office associates supplemented with outsourced attorneys as needed for specific needs or seasonal demand, et cetera, et cetera. Other firms are looking to hire entirely outsourced remote associates on a contract basis for help rather than hiring anyone under the traditional model. So the beauty is that you can play around with this. If you're a solo attorney or you're at a small firm, you have a lot of flexibility to try different approaches to get the help you need for your firm. And I definitely want to encourage you to do that. And, I'm focusing my comments on attorneys. It really goes to almost any role in a law firm, whether it's someone answering the phones. You could have someone in the office at a desk answering phones, but you could also look to a virtual receptionist, help with marketing, paralegal services, et cetera, et cetera. You can get almost any function of a law firm outsourced to a freelancer to get that help. All right, outsourcing is on the rise. This data is obviously a little dated now. I've been waiting for our friends at Altman Whale to put out a new survey to show the use of outsourcing contract lawyers, part-time lawyers, et cetera. But even as far back as 2019, so pre-pandemic, outsourcing was on the rise, and it was a big part of a lot of firms' business models. And it's no wonder. Outsourcing really makes a lot of sense. It's a great way for you to get the help you need and grow your firm, to take some of the stress off your own back, to make more money and access expertise. In addition to these benefits, outsourcing can also help you get help a lot faster. When you finally feel motivated to try and go hire someone for your firm, who has months to wait for a lateral hire? you need help now and you want to get going. With outsourcing through LawClerk, you can connect with freelance lawyers for project-based work, just one-off projects in hours, sometimes even minutes, less than an hour. You can find remote associates for ongoing work, right, whether that's hourly work or a monthly subscription, in days rather than months. So it's a much faster option for you to find that help as things come up and you need help. Outsourcing under a more modern hiring model is also a way to stay very nimble. You can be very flexible and, adding freelancers when you need them and just not giving them work when you don't have work to hand off to them. This can also be a great way for you to access really deep expertise from the talent pool. If you're hiring, chances are you probably are hiring a younger attorney who's going to need a lot of handholding, a lot of mentoring. And that's another, big use of your own precious time. With outsourcing, you could often connect with people who've been practicing for years, if not decades, and are not going to need nearly as much handholding. So that's another big win there as well, less handholding. Another key thing to keep in mind, whether you're looking at the traditional hiring method or you're looking at outsourcing, is that hiring should always result in making you and your firm more money. This is not an expense. This is a way for you to generate more work that you can build a clients and bring in more revenues. So that's really important. The question I get over and over is, can lawyers make money with outsourcing? And the answer is yes. The key ethics rule to keep in mind is Model Rule 1.5, which matches up with most states' professional rules. And this says that you can charge the work of another attorney in your firm to a client at a reasonable market rate. This extends to a contract lawyer or a freelance lawyer as well. You can bill their time to a client at a reasonable market rate. So what's a reasonable rate? Of course, it's going to depend on factors like how many years they've been practicing law, how deep is their expertise in this area of law, how complicated is the work they're doing for you. But if you're not quite sure where to start, another great resource for you to check out is the most recent Clio Legal Trends report from 2022. Had an appendix that included a ton of data on hourly rates, both by states, every single state, and by practice areas. So you can use tools like this to go in and find reasonable rates. Another really great way to look at that is, again, to call a friend at another law firm or a law school buddy, or simply look at the fee petitions that other lawyers are filing in your practice area to see what they're charging for their associates and their paralegals, etc., to give you a reference point. So when it comes to modern hiring and outsourcing, of course, LawClerk is one of many options, but we're glad that you joined in today to watch this presentation. And we're really excited that we offer a variety of options to help you get the exact kind of help you need when you need it. These range from single projects to our hourly associate program to our subscription program. So let me give you a quick overview of each of these and how you can make money with each. So a project is great for when things pop up that you need help with. Maybe you, opposing counsel files a motion, you need to write an opposition, but you already have court scheduled all week and client meetings. You don't have time to go through the file and draft that opposition. It's a great time to log into LawClerk, post that opposition as a single project, and get the help you need to get through that little busy moment and get the draft written so you can fine tune it and get it filed on time. So how do you make money off projects? Great question. Let's do a little math. So let's say you hire a freelance lawyer through LawClerk. All of our project work is done on a flat fee basis, and the hiring attorney sets the fee. So let's go back to our same example of you need someone to write an opposition for you. You find someone and you post that project for $1,000. They write the opposition, they present it to you along with their time card, because our freelancers are required to keep track of their time. And they say, okay, I worked 8.5 hours drafting this opposition. Great. Based on their years of practice, the level of the work, your area of law, etc., you determine that a reasonable market rate is $200 an hour. Now, a lot of you are laughing right now saying that is way too low, and some of you might be thinking that's way too high. It's going to vary across the country, but just go with me for this example. So this means that you could bill their 8.5 hours to the client at $1,700 total. Keeping in mind you paid $1,000 to get the work done, that's a profit to you and your law firm of $700 on just one project, okay? One project. So let's imagine, what if you multiplied this? What if you had a $700 profit on one project every week over the course of a year? That's an extra $36,000, over $36,000 of revenue that comes into your firm without you having to do all that work, without you pulling all-nighters, et cetera, et cetera. That can be a real game changer for a solo attorney looking to boost their revenues and, get extra help as needed without hiring someone full time. So projects are a great solution. I'm a big fan of a project. That's, I turn to that even myself sometimes to get a little extra help. Our next option is our hourly program. So with hourly, this is kind of a middle type range where you're connected with one dedicated remote associate who's available to you on demand when you need help, but you're not committing to a certain level of hours every month. You're just paying them when they do work. This is a really great solution for lawyers and law firms that know they have pretty consistent overflow work, but they aren't really able to predict the number of hours to go to our subscription program. This is a great solution for that kind of middle range where you need more than a project, but you're not quite ready to commit to subscription because your hours are a bit unpredictable. All right, let's look at how you make money under the hourly associate program. Let's say that you're paying your hourly associate $140 for every hour they work, and you determine based on their years of practice, experience, et cetera, that their reasonable market rate is $300 an hour, okay? So if you have them do 20 hours of work for you in 1 month, you bill that to the client at $6,000. You've paid $2,800, so that's a profit to your firm of a little over $3,000 for that month, okay? Again, you multiply that by 12 months, a whole year, that gets to be a pretty big number. Again, you're well over $36,000, and that can be a real big game changer. And with this approach, unlike the traditional approach, you're not having the overhead, you're not having cost of office space and equipment, you're not paying insurance and benefits, et cetera. This is just pure profit without the overhead. Now, well, that word didn't quite come out right on my slide. Let's look at our third, and our heavy hitter is our subscription program, and it's really great. Subscription is for anyone looking for a steady 30 hours or more of help every month. This is geared mostly for written work. If you do need help with appearances and client interaction, that requires a minimum commitment of 40 hours a month. We offer a variety of service levels within here. So, junior attorneys, those with 1 to 4 years of experience, are typically going to be around the $90 to $120 an hour range. Mid-level attorneys, $120 to $160. And more senior attorneys are going to be at $160 an hour and up. So you and your associate will negotiate and decide on the hourly rate. A lot of our top freelancers kind of have a standard rate that they charge for their freelance work. And it's a great way for you to find someone to fit your exact needs. Now, how do we make money with subscription? Well, let's say that you find a remote associate and you start a 40-hour a month subscription. Let's say you're paying them $100 an hour for easy math, but that monthly total is $4,000 out of pocket. You determine that you can bill them to your client at $275 an hour. So you're going to be billing their work out, and the net monthly profit after you account for what you've paid is $7,000. Okay, that's 1 month. So over the course of a year, using this type of an example, that's $84,000. If you doubled this to 80 hours a month, that's over $160,000. These are big, big numbers, and they can be a major game changer for any solo attorney or small firm looking to get additional help to get work done and drive more revenues without increasing your overhead. So total game changer. Okay. Another thing to really note is that we have a lot of great options here. You can mix and match. So even if you're working with someone on a subscription, but something totally random comes up, you can still go post that as a project. Or even if you have, a subscription, maybe you have someone on an hourly basis too, just for those times, maybe when you're prepping for trial and you need all hands on deck to really, put the pedal to the metal and make sure that you're ready. So you can always go back to projects. You can mix and match to get the help you need, which is why the flexibility of outsourcing is a major win for modern law firms. I really want to encourage you, no matter what phase of hiring for your firm that you're at, try to get ahead of your hiring needs, okay? If you know you have 4 trials coming up in the next quarter, the time to hire was like months ago. If you haven't done it, time is now. You need to try to get ahead of your hiring needs so you're not always playing catch up and you don't find yourself just, absolutely drowning when you are gearing up for trial or trying to close a big deal. So get ahead of your hiring needs, do yourself a favor, save yourself a lot of stress. All right, hopefully I've shown you the benefits of outsourcing versus the traditional full-time hiring method. Of course, a lot of firms are going to go to a hybrid mix of having full-time in-office associates and supplementing that with a variety of outsourced contract attorneys, freelance attorneys, whatever you want to call them, they're amazing. So I mentioned earlier that we do have a resource available. It's a hiring worksheet that helps you work through these factors, plus a lot of other factors with hiring about, what are your non-negotiables for your ideal candidate? What characteristics are you really looking for in the person you want to hire, whether that's outsourced or full-time. So I'm going to email a copy of this worksheet to everyone who registered for the live webinar. I hope it's a good resource. If you are watching this replay on YouTube, go check out our website, lawclerk.legal. You can get a copy of the worksheet there as well. But no matter what option you decide, I really hope that you decide to take action to get the help you need to continue to grow your firm and drive your revenues in 2023 and beyond. No matter which option you choose, our team here at LawClerk is here to help you. We're very happy to be a partner with you as you grow your firm, and I hope you'll lean on our resources. So our dedicated LawClerk advisors are incredibly knowledgeable. They each work with a few hundred attorneys across the country, and you can lean on them to learn some best practices about hiring, selecting the best candidate, how to post a project, et cetera, so that you can have success as well. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you so much for joining me today.